All right, we'll call the meeting to order. So I don't think, we don't have to do remote participation because Stephen's not here. So matters from the public.
There are none.
There are none. All right, moving right along. Approval of the minutes. Are there any comments on the minutes?
I rolled in a couple minutes late and missed the roll call, so just to keep my perfect attendance flat. I show missing, but I was there.
We'll
All
change
right,
that.
then we correct the minutes to reflect that. Anything else? All right, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, the minutes are approved. So financial report.
Yes, so the financial report was distributed through email earlier this morning. I'm just gonna do an abbreviated version of the report since we're going to be looking into maybe reformatting it in the new fiscal year. We have an operating revenue through the period of April 30th of 2003. Operating net revenues rather, of $1,037,893.95. Our net revenues were $44,745,057, leaving us with a cash balance of $868,828.47.
Any questions on the financial report?
Can I just ask a quick question, because I'm
Sure.
curious, and I probably should know the answer to this. So we're reformatting could you give me just a
Sure.
couple?
I think most of the directors have agreed that it's a little bit confusing to see the figures as they are typically outlaid, because a lot of the pass-through funding that exists embedded into the financial report
Yeah.
gives a little bit of a different perspective on what our actual balance is and what money we have to spend, because so many of our projects are supported through county funds that are channeled through for pass-through funding. So it can appear to give it a little bit of a hazy look when you're trying to kind of come down to what's in our account, what do we have to support businesses with
Right, I think
currently.
that's
So
it. Like
we just want to
what's our
restructure
money,
the vision of
the
it. Yeah.
EDA or the,
What's
what's the
our checkbook
EDA money
look
versus
like? Right.
pass-through money. to the
And that's
county.
fair. So it's something we're doing here. It's not a countywide.
Correct,
I was just
correct.
trying
Right,
to figure out.
Sure,
Okay,
staff
got it.
staff is planning to work with accounting and come up with a little bit more user-friendly
Right.
version of the financial report.
That's fine. I just thought I'm not ready for everybody to
No,
change
there's no
everything,
test
you know?
after this, no.
It's not gonna be 30 pages long. I don't
Right.
think. There's a couple of
Thank you.
lines.
Thank you.
And I will point out, no one jumped at the opportunity to be secretary treasurer. I'm jumping ahead in our agenda here. We'll give people a little more time to think about it, because I don't think we have to have a secretary treasurer this.
But there are members missing, that creates an opportunity.
Yeah, so I think we'll, and it will give whoever the new treasurer is an opportunity to put their input into the new formatting of the financial statements. So that's an exciting opportunity.
That there not be unreasonable delay, because I know Mr. Culp's here to respond or to advise us on the bonding function that's gonna come up, and at some point in time, as I understand it, we have to have the chair and the secretary treasurer make some endorsements, and if we don't have one, I don't know if that causes problems.
Okay. All right. Well, we can at least wait till the next meeting and see if any.
Obviously, yeah.
Okay. So I jumped to 5B. So on to new business. We welcome Andrea Johnson as our new EDA director. I think maybe it would make sense for us to each do a short introduction of what we do here and then what we do in our day job. So I will start out. So you can start. I'm Don Long. I'm a business and transactional lawyer for Pettit here in town, EDA chair, and I've been on the EDA since 2015 or so. So,
Andrea Johnson, I am the CEO of Vanderlinde Recycling and Container Rentals. And also my husband and I have a property management business in addition to that. And I have been in Charlottesville, I guess, 11 years. My husband is retired Army, so we spent 23 years traveling the globe and settled here afterwards. and excited to see what I can contribute to moving Albemarle County forward.
Thank you. Welcome.
My name is Jeff Morrill, and I own businesses in Boston and work remotely before this. I started working remotely before I did, and go back, commute, go back a few times a year. I much prefer my life in Charlottesville. This is part of it. So serving with you all this morning.
Joe Matola, I am the COO of Prone Robotics, which is in Charlottesville now, formerly in Crozet. I've been EDA director for the last couple of years, and basically my past was I was in legal and compliance in New York City in the financial services industry for God knows how long, too long, 20 years or so. So, and I've been in Charlottesville for the last 2.5 years, I'd say, something like that. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Oh,
You're, once we're going around the table.
okay. Diantha McKeel, supervisor representing the Jack Jewett Magisterial District. I am thrilled to welcome Andy to represent the Jewett District. I have to stop and think, I've been on the Board of Supervisors. This is my 9th year, I think that's right. Then, of course, most of you all know, served on the Albemarle County School Board for 16 years. So, how long have I been? Have I been here 3 years at the table?
I think more than that.
I've lost track.
Well, there's
Anyway,
this COVID kind of thing that happened.
there was a COVID,
The
and we
time
were,
warp.
and we were sort
The
of, so
lost
that's
years. Yeah,
that's right,
the lost
that's
years.
right. But anyway, lovely to be out of COVID, back here, right? With everybody.
Good afternoon, Trevor Henry. I'm Deputy County Executive. I've been with the county since 2009. I kind of came up through the facility side of the house. Have been in the executive office since 2018. My portfolio is changing with Mr. Walker's departure. I work with public safety primarily, and then I'm picking up and working with economic development moving forward, effective officially 1 July, but we're transitioning now. I've been involved, former Navy, been involved with the Defense Affairs Committee since 2018, and have been doing a lot of work on the topic that we'll be talking about here in a few minutes.
Well, this is awkward. I'm Doug Walker, and apparently I'm departing.
Well, your badge expires, so you might not be able to get in the building anymore.
Yeah, and you have to turn your laptop in too.
Yeah, and I've had economic development in my portfolio for about 6 years, really, since the initial, I guess, formation of the economic development
Yeah.
office, and the transition from Lee Catlin to Tom Folding left. So a good 5+ years in trying to help support the effort of economic development with JT and staff. So it's interesting leaving. So but that's kind of where I am. So transitioning out.
Has this big grin on his face.
And so this will be Doug Walker's last EDA meeting with us. And so I can't let that go by without saying to Doug, we greatly appreciate everything you've done to support us over the years and believing in the EDA and its potential and pushing us to do bigger and greater things. And thank you for your confidence and resourcing us the way that you have. And it's been a big wind behind our sails. So thank you for everything you've done.
It's been a pleasure. It's been fun to see it grow and evolve. So thanks.
And I certainly can say from the chair's standpoint that I appreciate everything that you've done and how easy you've been to work with. So thank you.
Richie, do you want to?
Do you have any announcements you want to make?
I
Richard?
do. I'm Richard Deloria with the County Attorney's Office. I won't bore you since we went through orientation, but I will report for the minutes and for the record that under pursuant to Virginia law, we oriented Andy as the FOIA and FOIA.
And
Same
both
disease.
Ashley and I were also a part of that orientation. So
As much as I hate to pass up an opportunity to speak about myself or
yeah.
talk about
Yeah, we probably will.
We're-
I'll take a quick moment to also recognize we have a supervisor in the audience. And Supervisor Lapiso Curley, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself?
I'm the Rivanna supervisor, and I'm here because I'm very much interested, as my colleague is interested in economic development. We're both very, very supportive, so you all have that. And just kind of anxious. I missed the meeting we had because I was overseas, so I'm here to listen to Mr. Henry also because he's so good at presenting and explaining everything.
No pressure.
But yes, this is my first term on the board and running for reelection in November. Oh boy, aren't I lucky.
Richie, would you like to?
So we do have a guest from the county attorney's office, Nicholas Pham. He is, he's a rising third year student at the UVA School of Law. And he comes to us from, I want to say Mobile, Alabama, is that right? So he's enjoying the cool Virginia summer.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. So that moves us right to the next item on our agenda, the overview of the Ravenna Station futures. So you lead us off, Trevor?
And so, what's customary to present from the end of the table, around the table?
Whatever you're most comfortable with. The cameras are set up to pick you up right where you are. So
Awkward for me to be on this. I'm gonna move down to the end of the table. I'm sorry.
Makes you comfortable.
Yeah, yeah. So JT and I will tag team this. Jacob Sumner, our CFO, was unable to make this portion of the meeting, but we have Chris here in the audience to help with any questions. I think the main goal for today is to provide an overview of the project, the work that we're doing, some background to talk about the why, and then JT will cover some of the concepts that we're moving forward with, and as well as the how we're going to do it from a financial perspective. You have control of it? Okay. So, and some of you may have seen the meeting on May 24th, the day the board, through a special meeting, took assignment of this project. So some of this, well, actually much of this will be repetitive, but we wanted to make sure there was grounding for the EDA in case there were questions. The work that the county has been doing dates back well before, the board action in May to take assignment of this project. There is a partnership with the chamber called the Defense Affairs Committee, of which I mentioned I'm a member of. JT is as well now. They have been working with DoD in our community for the past decade or so, and also working with the state to do a series of SWOT analysis around the DoD industry and with a specific lens on Rivanna Station, the station that is local base that supports multiple DoD components, which I'll talk about, but wanting to really understand, kind of how that work was going and the things that entity needs to support its current state. So, business retention as well as ability to grow. The Army itself in 2016 did a master plan around some growth needs that they had, and they looked inside the fence line and outside the fence line as far as options. So that work has informed, some of the action that the county is in progress of taking. And then finally, go back one. Sorry. That's okay, fast finger. There was a Weldon Cooper study that was presented to the board, was sponsored, was led through the Defense Affairs Committee. The county was a primary sponsor of that work. Weldon Cooper did the study, and it was an assessment of economic impacts of all DoD in our region being Albemarle, Charlottesville, and Greene. The report, which is public domain, and if you don't have a copy of it, we need to make sure that you get a copy of it, reports that approximately $1.2 billion of annual economic revenue is generated from DoD in our region, of which Rivanna Station is 52% of that. So $500 million plus a year is generated out of Rivanna Station. Second highest revenue generator in our community. So it's important that we're paying attention to this. Just a little more history. When I was first involved in the DAC 2018 and working with the state's Secretary of Veterans and Military Affairs Office, Ravenna Station, the National Ground Intelligence Center specifically was looking to move forward an addition project. They're expanding now. So if you drive up 29 and you look to your east, you'll see a couple of massive cranes, and they're doing an expansion of their secured spaces, lab space right now. In the 2018-2019 timeframe, NGIC's reps were trying to move that project forward with funding and appropriation through their mechanisms. They were meeting with the Office of Management Budget, walking through the project, which is expensive because it's infill, there's critical slopes, and it requires a parking deck because the site is constrained. And at the time, the budget office for our federal government said, why not just relocate this whole operations out to a site in St. Louis? St. Louis had just created 100 acres. And they were marketing DoD components to try to entice them to move and expand. Luckily, for our sake, that didn't happen. The funding was able to get landed, and then the $90 million project is underway. But it accelerated our sense of urgency to make sure that we are doing everything we can as a community to support that function. And again, we knew there was a large economic engine up there. We just didn't have the data to show the significance as it is. Next slide. This is a bit of an eye chart, but it just reflects the 100+ community organizations that are in our community that are private sector defense contractors supporting both Ravenna Station and other elements of our DoD, spread throughout the city, the county, up 29 North, and all the way up into Greene County. And that 29 North corridor from Airport Road, with the research park, with our work at Ravenna Station, and then all the way up into Ruckersville, I think 20 years from now will be a significant defense corridor in the region and in the state. Next slide. At Ravenna Station today, and a lot of folks don't even know it exists because of the nature of the work. It's an intelligence community. It is, three-letter symbols: National Ground Intelligence Center, what's for NGIC, but DIA, NGA. They are all critical to our Department of Defense and the work that they do. During the Afghanistan war on terror, they were collecting and processing intelligence packages and working with troops in conflicts through that period of time. And a lot of folks in Elmore County are not aware of what and that's just a small bit of what they do on a day-to-day basis in securing in serving our defense and our operational posture. At the station itself, Ravenna Station, it's a substation to Fort Belvoir, the parent command out of Northern Virginia. It houses approximately, and this number is growing, 2,100 civilian and military employees, the majority of which are civilian. They work at NGIC, NGA, and DIA. They support the intelligence community work with analytics and other assessment work that they do in support of the defense missions. The ranges of fields that they're in include biotech, AI, cybersecurity, aerospace, materials engineering, even agriculture, from a impact to the global state. And so there's a lot of work that happens at that small 75 acres that's hidden away to the right of Boulders Road, up on the 29 North. The folks that work there don't just work there, but a lot of them live in Albemarle County. They have kids in our schools. They coach our sports teams. They're active in churches in the community, and the median salary there is around $100,000. So it's a meaningful employment center. Next slide. So why did the county do what we did? We recognized with a sense of urgency, especially when there was some consideration of NGIC not being able to do that expansion, about how could we get involved to ensure the stability of that station and ensure its operations in a state that is supportive of that entity. How can we be a good partner for them? And how could we work with them to do an expansion of existing function in an adjacent and compatible way, and also help grow the industry. So it hits both on retention and expansion, of which JT will talk about. I kind of skipped through it at the beginning, but in 2014, there was work that was led out of our state's Defense and Military Affairs Office with the stakeholders from Rivanna Station. They did an art of the possibility of what an expansion might look like. And it came up with a concept that has been the basis of a lot of our work in assessing how we might acquire land to provide both protection and security, but expansion opportunities. And that's what started us on this path of doing an acquisition, single landowner in that area, and we worked through a set of brokers and a team in a way to acquire what we believed were the critical elements of supporting the mission, supporting and growing the mission. The DoD has a strong preference to have a buffer from neighbors as practical as possible to enhance its base security. Based on the art of the possibility work, we knew there was a desire for a potential expansion of 75 to 100 acres to the immediate north and the east of the site. And we also knew that there was importance for the Defense Department to have can you do the Boulders Road? So right now, there's a dead end, and there's a lot of interest for resiliency and support of the existing function is to have a secondary entrance to Boulders Road, or to Rivanna Station via the extension of Boulders Road. I will note that the county EDA took action, I'll say 2017, 2018.
Yep.
And purchased a former Palm Reader's house, which basically locked that intersection for future connection. And so that was a very tactical move. I don't think at the time they would have envisioned the county taking the action to acquire this degree of the property, but it certainly it was with forethought about what that future looks like. And so the county has been went into negotiations anonymously through brokers in 2019. Pandemic hit, we stood down for a little bit while the dust settled on that, and we picked it up back in earnest about 18 months ago. The work, and I should mention too, that the board has been our partner and has been a leader in this work along the way. We've had multiple discussions with our board about the criticality of this work and this opportunity and its in the future. And so working with the board and our brokers, we were able to get to a point where we had a signed purchase agreement through an LLC that was then presented to our board on May 24th, where they accepted assignment of that. And that is then now under the county's responsibility. The project we're calling is Rivanna Station Futures. JT can talk a little bit about the concept and the modeling that we have done and the vision, and also the work that we're doing from a due diligence and financing perspective next. But before I move on, are there any questions? Actually, I probably should give a little more orientation. The orange is the existing site owned by the government. Again, Rivanna Station. Boulders Road is a public VDOT road that terminates at that green kind of boundary area. That is a commercial property that is not part of this acquisition, that is independently owned, and I believe the Army has invested $12 to $13 million to fortify that, and it is a functioning space right now. So their plan is as they build out this lab addition, they're going to move staff out of the commercial building with the hope that they could then stand down those leases. But I believe that the work is still expanding there, that they're going to need contractors in that. So they're actually negotiating a 5-year extension of that lease now. But our property acquisition that is under consideration is the white area. Of the 462 acres, 232 of that is in the development area and 230 is in the rural area. Questions before I turn it over to JT?
Other than the former Palm Reader property, does the county or the DOD or anybody own anything else? Is this sort of the extent of what the playground is?
No. Yes, sir.
Yeah, everything in white is currently held by one property owner that we're purchasing from. And any other questions?
JT?
Okay, well then I am going to talk a little bit about how this strategy and this approach is rooted in Project Enable, and then look at the vision. And then, as Trevor mentioned, we have bond counsel for the county with us here today. Chris Culp is in the audience, and he'll help us field Q&A after we get through these next few slides. So just want to take a quick pause and root this back into Project Enable. This was the plan the board adopted in 2018. This was an explicit part of our strategy. The whole story that you just heard from Trevor is really a story of BRE, which is something that Ashley and I do and is fundamental to any economic development office. We're knocking on the doors of our most targeted, our target sectors, our most important industries, and finding out what is it that they need, what are their challenges. And what we heard here is that the DoD was really at an inflection point of, do we continue to invest here or do we try to go somewhere else? And so that's what led the county to pursue the strategy of site control. Trevor talked about that art of the possibility concept, and that's what's shown on the screen here. And so outlined in red is the existing station, and then highlighted in green and shown with orange buildings and yellow, red, and blue are different types of uses for a proposed expansion. This is over 600,000 square feet of space across about 75 acres. And this has been the vision that's been propelling us forward. And so we took that vision and put it into a 3D version that we actually have an animated little short video to go with it, but it helps to give a sense of what the opportunity is here. And later this summer, Trevor and I will be going out to partners at the federal level, at the state level, as well as to academic partners, and talking about if this was the vision that that's still acceptable to the Department of Defense, you know, where could these different partners see themselves? And this plays into a little bit of the financing that the EDA is going to play such an important role in, which I'll talk about in just a minute. To look at some of the specific numbers, Trevor mentioned the Weldon Cooper Center study on the Department of Defense's impact on our entire region. These numbers focus on this specific concept itself. So we had an in-plan analysis done that showed the direct, indirect, and induced benefit of this expansion would yield almost 900 new jobs. The median income is a little bit low than what Trevor mentioned in terms of people coming into the into Rivanna Station itself. That's because the space that is shown in the art of the possibility concept, you know, that includes private sector, that includes academia, that includes warehousing types of jobs. So those are not purely behind the fence Rivanna Station jobs that are those 6-figure jobs. We would expect at full build out this to accrue approximately $1 million in local tax revenue. It would yield a little over $2 million to the state. And we think these numbers are conservative. The analysis on this concept doesn't include a maximum build out. So it's possible, you know, as we think about how Rivanna Station has undertaken very expensive infill projects and found it worthy of such large investment, that the concept may undersell the opportunity here that was in that art of the possibility concept. And so I mentioned we'd be going later this summer to talk to different partners. What would we be proposing? The way we see it right now is that we would be going to the federal government as well as state agencies and talking about horizontal and vertical development. So it makes most sense to us right now to work on site readiness and horizontal infrastructure with our state partners, and to work on vertical construction with our federal and private partners. And so the EDA may very well play a much larger role in how the property is leveraged to maximize the value of both a return on investment and public good perspective. The next few slides, though, we're just going to talk specifically about closing on the property, because we haven't closed on the property yet. We just have a contract to buy it. And so
JT, before we move on, just on
Yeah.
the in-plan analysis, it's just worth noting, the focus has been on that 75-acre expansion concept. Remember that this acquisition includes additional development area, upwards of 230 acres. So we think that build out could be much greater, but the focus to date has been really around that immediate campus concept.
Yeah.
Sorry, JT.
exactly. And so this just adds on to that vision for how these different partnerships could be broken out, locally driven, state supported, and federally shared. This is the schedule we have for the rest of the summer to try to get more information about what that interest is, and does this concept still apply to what our partners are most interested in. So here's where the EDA comes into play, and that will be through helping the county to issue a bond anticipation note for the cost of closing on the land. So we've negotiated that rate of $58 million, and we would be issuing a bond anticipation note that would last for 5 years, and that would give us time to work with our partners to figure out how do they want to be a part of this site going forward, and help us bring down that overall cost to the county. This type of short-term financing is something that the EDA has done before for other types of county projects, and Chris Culp can answer questions about that, but we would be going to the public market and issuing this note. So just as the EDA has done in other issuances, they would be a conduit to access this bond financing. And the timing gives us not only time to work on the partner development, but it also gives us time for further due diligence on Trevor just mentioned, 232 acres are in the development area. So what's the maximum extent of the opportunity? We know that there's great interest in that land immediately adjacent to the existing station, but the land that's further out that may be of interest to private sector partners that are considered safe and not a threat to the existing station, we could better identify and delineate where those opportunities are. And so the county, in approving its fiscal 24 budget, included the interest payments on this short-term financing that will give us this runway of 5 years to do partnership development. At the end of that ban, we'll convert whatever remaining debt there is to a long-term financing structure, and that will be dependent on what kind of reception we've had and what kind of partners had come to the table at that point. And so I think that's the only comments that I wanted to make. Trevor, is there anything
I
else?
just want to add one other thing I failed to mention, that when the agreement was signed, the date of the signature was May 18th. The assignment to the board was on May 24th. The shot clock of the contract started on that day, the 18th. We have 90 days to do our due diligence. So it's engineering work, all that stuff is happening. We want to make sure that we have a good handle of the buildability of that site, that we discover any, unknown conditions. So that work is happening now. Lance Stewart, our Director of Facilities and Environmental Services, in the audience. That's being managed out of Lance's shop. Our finance department is working on the funding side. But we have 90 days by contract, and then we have another up to 6 months of extensions. And there's terms around those extensions, but I wanted to give you a time frame by which, we're working through the due diligence, and then we'll be, communicating to our board what that looks like and the recommendations, as we make considerations to close.
Trevor and JT, you may be planning on covering this, but I think it would be good to just talk to the EDA members just quickly about our public hearing for tomorrow night, so that they understand, and maybe you're planning on doing that, but they may hear it and wonder, just to make sure, why we're having a public hearing tomorrow night.
Yeah, so Richie may have more to add on this, but there's a provision of the state code that requires a public body to have a public hearing if there's an intention for any land that they're acquiring to be used for a private sector purpose. If it was going to be used for a public use, there would be no requirement for a public hearing. But tomorrow night's public hearing checks the box from the state code's perspective that would allow the Board of Supervisors maximum flexibility on how this space is ultimately programmed. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that, Richie?
No, I mean, that's accurate. It doesn't provide any real framework for what the public hearing looks like, so it's gonna be informational. It will receive comment, if any, from the public. It doesn't require a resolution, but I understand the board will be presented with a resolution where they'll essentially agree that that will be a potential use. It doesn't bind the board or in what those uses will be. It just gives a green light to allow those uses.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great.
I'm just kind of getting my head around this, but so just for clarification, the EDA would be responsible for the debt service on this with the support of the bond? How does that work?
I'd like to
Chris.
call.
Yeah.
I have a seat right here for you.
Chris Cole from Hunt and Andrews Kurth, better known sometimes as Hunt and Williams, our old name out of Richmond. But I've had the pleasure of serving as bond counsel to the county on its financings and when the EDA is partnering with the county on projects. So the EDA would be serving as a conduit issuer to actually issue the bonds to the market. But the EDA would enter into a financing arrangement with the county where the county, subject to annual appropriation, would pay the debt service on behalf of the EDA to the bondholders. So there's no other EDA funds that would be sort of securing that. It's just the county appropriation.
And is there any sort of liability or anything if the bonds are not purchased, like nobody buys them, and that is there a cash flow issue then through the county that the county has to bear that weight if to therefore pay for the?
If we had a failed bond issuance, we would be getting back with the financial advisor and rethinking how to go to the market or go to a bank to try to interest banks in doing a financing. But until there's an issuance, then obviously there's no debt service to be paid. But I think based on initial reviews from the county's financial advisor, the county has a great credit rating, and the market will be interested in this sort of undertaking.
Thank you.
Other questions for Chris or anybody else about the project?
Yeah, I'm just curious too, could the Board of Supervisors do this without the EDA? with what, is there some like statutory requirement that we're involved, or is this, I'm just trying to figure out how we're, I mean, obviously it's economic development relevant, I'm not saying it, I'm just wondering, like, it seems, yeah, is that?
It's a good question. The EDA and the county have sort of partnered together in financing arrangements over a long period of time. It's a way for the county to get to the market pretty quickly, to go through the EDA versus going through a referendum-related process, which involves cost and time and is not easily scheduled. So this is a way to get to the market quickly, and that's one of the primary reasons. But it also is appropriate, given sort of the economic development related purposes, to have the EDA involved in the financing. And this is done sort of by a number of counties across the state utilizing their EDA for these types of financings.
So the county has to have a bond referendum in order to borrow. If it was to do it directly, it has to actually put a referendum in front of the voters. So that's
Right, fewer voters here.
all right. Anything else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and I will add one thing, you know, if anyone wants to come to the public hearing tomorrow and speak in favor, that would certainly, would be appreciated. And I think it's going to be an excellent opportunity for the EDA to do a lot of the things that we've been talking about doing for a long time, with from a financing side, potentially some property control side to help with some of this land, especially the land that's outside this 75 acre, and maybe even the land that is in the 75 acre. I think at this point, it's still very in flux, so I think there are going to be lots of opportunities for us to be able to do things to help this project move itself along. So I think it'll be an exciting time.
So it's on our agenda for,
Yeah. I think it's at 6.
and well, we start at 6, and this is the first item after we do just a couple of quick business. So probably be, I don't know, 6, if you were gonna be there, I'm just trying to help out.
Yes.
If you're gonna be there, maybe what, 6:15, 6:30?
It's worth noting the chamber took an action and has provided a resolution of support that will be presented tomorrow to this part of the public hearing.
All right,
Thank you.
great. All right, so staff report. KT and Ashley.
Actually, Mr. Chair, we have a item D on the agenda.
Oh, sorry, Nikki. Come on up.
Possible to plug in, so, you have to use that one. That's fine.
I'll do it, but if you just want to give me the signal.
Okay. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nikki typically has entrance music from Taylor
Wait.
Swift.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, we did not have it teed up.
Speak to my heart.
So welcome, Dr. Nikki Hastings, who is the Executive Director of Seville BioHub, which is an organization that we've supported in the past, and she's got a presentation, another opportunity.
Thank you so much, and it's great hearing everything going on in the defense world. I'm very aligned with some of the opportunities with the biotech sector, thinking about infrastructure and really propping up this industry and life sciences alongside what's going on in defense, but in similar fashion. Come by the EDA through years of support for the organization and our growth of the local industry here. We serve over 2,500 employees. We've seen tremendous growth, 500 new employees since the early pandemic days that we've tracked. Over 800,000 square foot of space is occupied both in the city and county by this sector. Over 75 companies that are growing, seeing strong momentum in both funding at frequency and size. We're starting to see traction of venture capital here. I'll highlight a few of those for you. Albemarle County-based AgroSpheres raised over $20 million just last fall from VCs across the country. Rivas Pharmaceuticals is one of the recent highlights that raised $132 million, led by Longitude Capital, RA Capital, these are big VC firms in Boston. And so we're starting to see an attention and attraction to this region for the biotech sector, which is really exciting. Alongside that, a new initiative with the UVA Paul and Diane Manning Institute Biotechnology being established adjacent to UVA Health is bringing a lot more attention to this industry and a lot more long-term opportunity. We see this as massive opportunity for the county specifically due to the land accessibility and opportunities to build larger facilities as these companies grow. Mentioned a few of those. What we lack in Charlottesville and Albemarle is acceleration space. So our organization is an accelerating organization.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I had to go down.
Oh, there we go. Okay, got it. So, just our mission is to engage, resource these companies, accelerate them, provide them with education and knowledge of how do you spin from your concept that you might be developing at the university or even within the community. And so we're agnostic, but support all growth within the biotech sector. This is everything from new drugs being developed, medical devices, software technology supporting healthcare initiatives. This is a sector of high interest. We saw the high-tech software boom. Biotech is the next big boom and opportunity for growth as we see these industries merge. So this is just kind of a word cloud showing what our organization has highlighted as opportunities and how we're being viewed from the broader world in 2023, really as an accelerating organization, nonprofit biotech accelerator. We catch everything that's coming out of the university. We're even engaging with UVA in many ways through two collaboration agreements right now to support acceleration. And through our entrepreneur in residence activities, we are connecting at the faculty level, at the student level to provide those with concepts, the pathway forward to commercialization. Ultimately, those that are successful are going to need space to grow, hiring opportunities, and more attraction of capital to the region. Just some of our highlights from this year so far. We are a highly active organization focused on having an impact. We really care about meeting entrepreneurs where they are. We hold a monthly speaker series that is in high demand, fully sold out every month on a Tuesday night, bringing over 80 people from the community together. We've become the go-to organization for the biotech sector in Charlottesville and Albemarle County. TomTom Fest, we were very active in planning, coordinating a Technology for Good track. We recruited venture capitalists from the West Coast to participate with us. They said, this is what we want to see. We want to be participating in a community like this with such vibrancy and such enthusiasm. You've put us in touch with some of these CEOs very quickly. It would have taken us 3 months to make those connections. And we want to partner with organizations like yours to make those connections to then invest. We are developing a very strong partnership with Shear Partners in South Duval. They're in Maryland. They are life science real estate experts. We lack some of that here in our region. And we recognize that they're a partner potentially for us in building out a lab accelerator where we could say, okay, every company coming out of UVA, this is your first stop in the community that can then lead to long-term retention of those companies in the region. Very excited about that and just had conversations in Richmond today around the county really being the ultimate beneficiary of this accelerator and opportunity from the land and infrastructure opportunity. And Shear Partners has toured Charlottesville and Albemarle County. They said this is their next market they're very interested in. UVA Economic Development is connected with us. We meet with them monthly. Pace Lochte is a real champion and has supported making connections to us to the Biotech Institute. We are partners with Licensing and Ventures Group and UVA Engineering is our newest relationship there. We have a Circle of Leaders membership organization. We bring the companies in, we bring them private programming and opportunities, again, to just become educated, aware, and hearing how did others get there. We heard from the CEO of Revis earlier how did he go raise that money, giving others the vision that they can also do that too here. We've hosted we are in our 4th cohort of our CHIP internship. Every year, every summer, hosting about 20 interns in 10 to 15 companies. It's been a success, such a success that when we first started, we had to go into the UVA classrooms to say, hey, have you ever thought about doing an internship in Charlottesville? To now we had over 125 applications just from biomedical engineering for these opportunities. So it's hard to turn people away, but we've really flipped the demand on that model. It's just really exciting to see that opportunity. Our EIR team is 3 strong and have expertise in building successful biotech companies. And as one point there, we've recently this year helped one company secure $1.2 million from Cab Angels in a private family office just this spring. So we can become an advocate for those companies amongst our investment partners. And we're 4 team members, so it feels really good from where we've come. It's a group of industry leaders who said, we see this opportunity to grow and build this community just by building a website is where we got our start in 2016. I'm not gonna belabor all of these points. We've had our strategic goals set and approved by the board. We've had great progress so far in 2023. And so these are materials for you to peruse if you're interested. I'm happy to share more details. An event we have coming up is the Biodiscovery Summit. This is our 2nd annual. We will be hosting this at the Code Building. And last year we had 170 attendees. We had the USPTO engaged saying, we love what's going on in your region. How can we help support you? It was a great program, so we're at it again and working to secure a keynote speaker for that. So that's October 12th, open access for everybody. So hope to see you there. What we're doing new this year is a pitch event where we're going to spread the word across Virginia, come and share your story with our community. And we're going to be convening with investors from across Virginia, but also across the country. Those that came from TomTom said, when can we come back? So we want to have opportunities for them to engage and hear what's happening. So we're really excited about that. JLabs in DC is offering 1 year of virtual residency. We have one company in our region already participating in that. We know that when they come back from that residency, they're going to want to be in this region because we are a strong pull and a network, and there's a community here that people are really attracted to. So we see that as a value add for this community as well. We have a board of 9 members. We have 2 seats still available and open. I mentioned we've grown to 4 new team members. So the current ask we have of the EDA, and we've had, again, strong relationship, and thank you all for the support so far today. We wouldn't be here without support from the localities as well as Go Virginia that really lifted up this organization. We continue to receive some sustainable operational funds from VIPC through their Entrepreneurship Regional Innovation Fund. We have received an award of $200,000 for a 1-year term. It's a required 2-to-1 match. We have the city participating in that, and we have an ask here for the county to equally participate, and we have a private donor that has supported the other $50,000. The details there are essentially the programming I've shared with you, but with a strong focus on entrepreneurship and educating and accelerating those early stage companies from getting them from concept to a company that can attract funding. We continue to go after additional funds. We are in the process of applying for a second grant, which I think is in the resolution here for federal grant, which we have not yet applied for. This will be our first federal grant. That request comes in at a $25K request to support a $750,000 opportunity that can lead us to even more financial support. That's through the EDA. It's not the build to scale program. So it's a $750,000 upfront for 3 years, and after which we could go after $2 million. So similar to the defense sector, we continue to seek funding and support to focus on industry ecosystem development, knowing that this industry in particular has a lot of very unique specific requirements. Very active in looking towards space for this accelerator that we're trying to build. Our other grant opportunity has come through from Go Virginia for that. So request that you continue to support us, and I have full confidence that we can continue to contribute significantly to the growth in this community, and very proud of where we've come today, but very thankful for the county's support to date. So happy to answer other questions. We have some economic impact data if that's of interest. Happy to share more.
Any questions?
What pot does our part come from?
I'm sorry, can you say?
It's really a,
Oh,
sorry.
internal.
It's a question for JT, I'm sorry. Where, like, I'm just looking at the financial report, this is the question I ask every time, is trying to get my.
Yeah, we have a pool of funds set aside for matching state and federal grant opportunities. Underneath the Economic Development Fund, there's a bucket called the Economic Opportunity Fund. And we utilize those funds for these types of opportunities.
And those are funds appropriated by the board
Yes.
to
Yes, yep.
And what do we have available right now through the end of the year?
And that through the end of the fiscal year, so over the course of the next week, it's substantially enough to cover this particular venture. It looks like about 230,000, I think, is left. I don't know the number specifically, but I could get that to you after the meeting. I have to report.
And just maybe just only tangentially related to that, is that money that continues to be available for the next fiscal year?
Yes, so those particular sources of funds are appropriated through the board for those particular purposes that JT just mentioned, to match state and local programming. So what the purpose of, I believe it was last year that we passed a resolution here to allow the EDA to essentially pay these types of matching incentives without having to return to the board each time. So that lump sum that was transferred, it was 465,000, if my recollection is correct, that was reappropriated so that we would be able to have the authority to make payments to support those organizations as needed and not delay and operate through the speed of business. So it will, yes, to answer your question in a much shorter and efficient way, it will carry over into the next fiscal year.
It's not a use it or lose it.
Right.
And what is our fiscal calendar?
The fiscal year starts on July 1st for the county, yes, and then it ends on June 30th. Yes, it's
But I
really
think
close.
once we get our financial statements reorganized, I think these things will be
A little
clearer
bit,
because we'll be able to
right,
see.
right.
And maybe that's a good point, is to, when we do that, is to think about, okay, even within the bigger chunk of money that the county has appropriated, how does that break down in terms of the spots for what we can do with it? I think that would be useful information.
I don't have any questions. I want to say thank you, Nikki, and just an observation from where I sit is that Siebel BioHub has come back to the EDA with more and more impressive results every single year. I feel like the organization has continued to make just significant contributions to the community. And I think for the EDA to hear, it's important to know that the state is who we do so much of our work through, is really looking at this ecosystem model and trying to figure out, Ashley and I by ourselves could never do what Nikki and her team are doing, but it requires this kind of special focus and community building and all the resources that you leverage through your networks. That's the direction, that's the future of economic development. So, I mean, we're thankful and appreciative that you're operating in our community, and hope that you'll continue to come back with even more impressive results, and I have confidence that you will. And so thanks for coming today.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like we're on a real inflection point really coming into the true potential. And I think to your point on where the state is putting their attention and seeing opportunity, we're trying to find ways to participate, at the highest level and bringing more attention to this region. We see this as, equivalent to opportunities in larger markets, but selling that, this is an underserved market, come here, participate and get involved, because the quality of life is, much surpassing, as we all know, so much surpassing some of the other larger markets. And the investors are participating in that, and they understand that now too. And so does our real estate development partner. So thank you so much. Always enjoy working with you all. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. So we're gonna
And we're back. Thanks for your patience.
all right. Is there a motion?
Sure, I'm trying to get should I read it? Or can I just refer to the screen, or how? What's the?
You can refer to the screen.
I'm going to move that we adopt the resolution as represented on the screen before us today.
Is there a second?
Second that motion.
All right. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. Thanks, Nikki.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, now, staff report.
Yes. So, Mr. Chair, we have a variety of pictures up here on the screen, and our last meeting was canceled in May, and we've experienced a lot of transition since then. But I think what I wanted the EDA to hear is that the business of the Economic Development Office has not stopped, and these pictures are just some of the things that we've been working on since our last meeting. You just heard Dr. Hastings talk about Agrispheres, and this is a photograph of one of the co-founders, Payam, holding a gift from the Economic Development Office. We historically have gifted a small recognition of the particular project name that we used. So this was called Project Befriend. This was in recognition of their company's commitment to creating 53 jobs in our community, $25 million in capital investment. They'll be at the Comdial building, building out a R&D and manufacturing space similar to what Agrispheres built at the Old State Farm building. So this was a great event that you may have heard about in the news that we didn't get a chance to acknowledge at a May meeting. A couple other things, and then I think Ashley probably has something she wanted to talk about too. On the left-hand side of the screen, we have Supervisor McKeel as a presenter at the recent CBIC Gala. That was a great event that celebrated a lot of the ecosystem partners that we were just talking about. And Nikki was also an award presenter, so you can't really see her, but she's right there at the bottom of that corner.
The bookends on
Yeah. And Supervisor McKeel, would you like to talk about the awardee here? This was
this was the Educator of the Year, which was
Yes.
great fun to present.
he's a teacher
And
and
it was, he's a teacher at Almar High School at the Science and Engineering School at Almar High School. So it was great fun.
Kevin Huff.
Yes, Kevin Huff.
and then I'll let Ashley talk about the two other photos in our collage.
Sure. Let's see, so we've talked about the CBIC. I've got like an extensive list of notes here, so I want to make sure I don't lose myself. Towards the middle, you heard earlier about the business and retention and expansion program that we work with in our office to support the local businesses and address their needs and provide some customized solutions for anything that they're maybe dealing with, challenges or questions or concerns that they're dealing with. And the one in the middle there is a trip that JT and I took alongside the state. It's called Everridge, ICS by Everridge, and they are a cooling refrigeration container system manufacturer out in Covesville and way down towards the south end of the county. And it was a really interesting and a fascinating experience. We were sort of taken through the whole process of how they almost put them together from from the smallest little components into these custom built refrigeration units that are then custom made and shipped to, for instance, JT was so curious, he went over to Wendy's across the road
The
to
Wendy's right across the
to
street.
make sure that they were.
It
they
has
were-
a walk-in cooler that was made just
Oh,
out
wow.
of
So it's neat to see how we
And he got a Frosty.
he did get a Frosty. But when we walked into the facility, there was a nice display indicating all of the different customers that they served, and some of the, it was just really amazing to see so many of the national brands that were represented, that were being supplied, right here in Albemarle County. Really cool to see. So we're trying to help them with some workforce issues and some visibility issues. They're kind of tucked away in southern Albemarle County, and we'd like to help them.
29?
They're almost to Nelson County, just tucked away there on the side of the road, heading south on 29. So we're gonna see what we can do to help them with their visibility and just sort of promote their company a little bit. But that's essentially what we'll be working on when we catch up to speed from all of our activities that we're gonna be working on pretty heavily right now. Let's see, what else do we have? The top right, you can see the big checks. You may have already heard about this update, but just to do a quick touchback, that was the first Piedmont pitch that the county and the city partnered with the Small Business Development Center, another one of our great partners that support small businesses and entrepreneurship in the community. And essentially, we partnered with the city and the CVS BDC to host a pitch competition for entrepreneurs so that they could hone in their business skills and practice pitching to investors. And the Charlottesville Angel Network was involved to a degree as a judge, and along with some judges from the chamber and other business leaders. We had Denise Herndon from the UVA Economic Development Department as a judge as well. But basically, there were over 70 applicants, which was really highly, very, very, very thrilled by that. We were absolutely, I guess, probably expecting about 40, and then 70 applied. So that was a really great response. They honed it down to 6 finalists who competed after completing a 10-week business essentials training. And that was the training I was discussing earlier. But first prize went to a young lady named Gabriella Romo for her clothing recycling business called Refem. And second prize was awarded to a gentleman named Philip Rich, and amount of $5,000 for Black Rose Landscaping. He's an eco landscaping business that's out of Earlysville. So that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun to see. And the Wool Factory generously hosted that activity. And then the last thing I think I have, we don't have a photo of it, but again, partnering with the CVS BDC, just like Seville BioHub and CBIC that we spoke about the gala. As you know, CVS BDC and CIC, we do a lot of support and work with them because they are the experts in dealing with these small businesses and providing the support that they need. And they hosted, I believe, Nikki, you presented at the Global Launchpad event as well, didn't you, on the 18th? She's just always around. She's always around in all these events.
Hey, Ashley?
yeah.
If you have not already, and I missed it, could you say out loud what the acronyms are?
For all of it, is this a
Yes.
test? The CVS BDC is this.
We have a new economic development director.
Yes, sir. The Central Virginia Small Business Development Center. And the CIC is the Community Investment Collaborative. And they're located just across the road there. We can see the building from our window here. And then CBIC is the Charlottesville Business Innovation Council. And then Seville Bio.
Should be a glossary.
I know, we should get one of those set up.
The
I
alphabet, I
could
call
have
it
benefited
alphabet
from one of those
soup.
along.
Yeah.
Well, the Global Launchpad event was held over at the Code Building, and that was another really exciting event that we were happy to participate in. Antoine Griffin from Amazon Business was the keynote speaker, and it essentially was just an opportunity to help entrepreneurs and businesses that are interested in expanding their their trade globally to position them in the best way possible to do so effectively.
So any questions about all that? The point we wanted to make was just that we're continuing to work in the community, and we're currently at about 50% capacity staff-wise, but we're still doing the best we can to keep up with everything that's going on. Any questions about that? All right.
I mean, I think it's interesting with the Ravenna station and the things that Nikki, you were talking about. In my experience, the Charlottesville Angel Network, they've been very busy. They're sort of at that, what I would say, the seed stage, and we now seem to be, because of the opportunities that Ravenna Station has, that Nikki's seeing with the growth of these opportunities. I think the big barrier that I've seen has been the larger investments coming into the community through the larger VCs, and I think we're starting to see that money's starting to come, and that the fear was always we'd get to a certain point and people would go to Boulder or Silicon Valley, and I think now there's more opportunities in town, and hopefully we'll have those with the Ravenna Station for things.
Yeah, if I could comment on the reason why that's shifting, something we've been observing through the pandemic is that being in the virtual world is actually really helpful for VCs to find other deals in other locations, and they are happy to now come to Charlottesville, spend a night, have a board meeting, come here and have a great weekend. So they're participating in tourism and opportunities there as well, but they know that they can check in on their companies in Zoom, and so that's really enabled VC investment outside of the San Franciscos and Boston. So we're definitely seeing that, as I mentioned, but it's really great for our region.
Yeah, that's really nice. I hadn't realized that part of it, so that's good to hear.
So it wouldn't surprise me if in the future a member of the EDA might serve as a judge for some of our future pitch competitions. So that's one point I wanted to make here, because I think we will be doing future pitch competitions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely up for discussion. It was a really great event.
All right, unfinished business.
Yes. So for unfinished business, we'd like to propose that the EDA amend a previously approved performance agreement, which was a match for a $50,000 APHID grant to Potter's Craft Cider. Potter's Craft Cider completed an APHID grant with the county back in 2019, where they created a tasting room that maybe you've been to down Route 29, where they renovated an old church and created an outdoor space that during the pandemic served them very well when people couldn't gather indoors. Their continued success led to an investment on Broadway Street, which is in an industrial district. They're now shipping their cider all up and down the East Coast. And in September, the EDA approved a match agreement that had two requirements with it. The first requirement was a certificate of occupancy, and the second was to open a tasting room or retail space in that structure. At the time that we brought that forward to the EDA, we were under the impression that the building would be exempt from the building code, and that there would be flexibility around creating these different types of spaces within the building. It's clear now that the building code will apply, and so that reduces the flexibility and the ability to create that space in the near term. And so the company is still interested in doing that in the future, but they're unable to commit to it right now. And so we'd like to propose that the EDA remove the requirement that be done before the grant match is provided. And that would just give the company some flexibility to continue to stabilize their expansion. And then as cash flow becomes available, if they want to continue to activate that space for people to come and visit, they'll have the option to do so, but there won't be the requirement, and they can do it the way that they want to.
So it's the tasting room requirement that we're talking about.
Yes, they will be getting a certificate of occupancy from our Department of Community Development.
Just curious, why was that made a contingency?
So the part of the expansion of Willow Tree out of the city of Charlottesville and into the county at the Woolen Mills site that Ashley was talking about, where the Piedmont Pitch was, there was a commitment by the county to do a study of that corridor called the Broadway Blueprint Study. And the recommendations of that first phase of the study talked about a desire to have more mixed use and, at night activation. So, Woolen Mills has, Grit Coffee and Selvage Brewing, which recently moved, but on the other end of the corridor, there's Decipher Brewing and an art gallery. And so the first phase of the study contemplated more of these kinds of uses, and Potter's Craft, their first tasting room has been very successful, and they're optimistic about it being successful here. It would require significantly more investment to open a tasting room while complying with the building code. And so the acknowledgement that applies makes it a challenge and kind of undermines the purpose of the grant, the original purpose of the grant, which was to support their expansion in manufacturing. And so, so to answer your question, the impetus came from that Broadway study, and I believe they'll still do it, but the action by the EDA today would just remove it as a requirement that they do it before the grant comes.
And they are currently in that Woolen Mills, they're
Yeah.
in that building.
Yeah, so they've just up the hill from Woolen Mills, 1820 Broadway, they have a production facility. There are milestones to meet the state's requirements for the grant, which for capital investment is 900,000. They've already eclipsed that. So should the EDA approve the match today and we go forward with this performance agreement, they would be working on their commitment to Virginia grown produce and new jobs. But they've already exceeded the capital investment. Any other questions? So
They are a tenant of that building, not an owner. of
That's
that building,
true.
And it matters in obviously contemplating the investments you're gonna make.
yeah, so this is, they have a 10-year lease to start, and
So I guess, just so we're clear, the issue is really that the cost of doing what our agreement requires them to do is just substantially greater than it would have been at the point that we made this commitment to them. And so this is an opportunity for us to say, look, we're not gonna make you spend a bunch of additional money that no one anticipated in order to fulfill this requirement that is not necessarily significant in the grand scheme of what we wanted to do.
that's
Is that
right.
a fair
That's
statement?
right. Yeah. And
I will add, in terms of our local benchmarks, part of the reason for adding those was that as the businesses, gradually made their investments and met the benchmarks, then they would earn the money. We would disperse the money at that point in time. The state disperses their funds up front. So they give you the money, and then and if the businesses don't match or don't meet the state's requirements, then they make us get it
We have to
back.
claw it back.
Us, not state.
We have to claw it back.
So we
That's right.
become, it puts us in a really difficult position. So the EDA staff, I think a couple of years ago said, well, why don't we build in benchmarks, and as you meet them, we'll release the funds. And that's what's kind of the structure. We just didn't realize the amount of investment you would have to put into it. And that was because we didn't think it was an agricultural building, and it's not.
It's no fun to take money back.
It's a difficult position to be in.
It is.
And so that was the point of trying to avoid that.
So we have a proposed motion.
Okay,
Get it. It's advanced, there we go.
all right. Is there someone like to propose the motion?
I move that we adopt the motion that's on the screen.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion or questions? All right, then all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No one. All right, then the resolution is approved. Any other matters? Anything anyone wants to bring up? So the next meeting is scheduled for July 18th. We have often not had a July meeting. I don't know what vacation schedules are. I believe what we discussed was potentially that we would keep this meeting on the calendar in case anything came up that we needed to do, but we would not plan on really scheduling anything for that meeting, so that if there was not anything that had to be done at that point, we'd wait until we get close to the deadline for giving the notice and then probably cancel that meeting.
And Richie, can I put you on the spot and ask you a question about a special meeting? Could we call an all virtual special meeting if there was urgent business to do, but not a need to have full attendance in person?
Right, our remote and virtual meeting policy allows us to call special meetings, and it can be all virtual. We have to be somewhat surgical on that, because once we do an all virtual special meeting, the next one cannot be all virtual.
Yeah, you can't do
The next special meeting or the next meeting?
The next meeting cannot be all
Okay.
virtual,
Can't
whether
do it.
special or not.
Special or not? Okay.
If it's very special, it still can't be.
Super special.
Even if it's your birthday.
That's right. Well, we got till November, so we're good on that.
But that's good for a one issue. So if we
Yeah.
have a bond issue come up and, we can get a quorum virtually, then I think that fits in real well. So it's a good policy for that purpose.
Yeah. All right,
And Don, just a couple, I'm sorry, are you?
certainly.
Just a
certainly.
couple of things, and this is, I just want to make sure that we get the Weldon Cooper Center study to the members regarding the economic impact, because I think you all will be very interested in that study. And the second thing is, I had the opportunity a couple of months ago to go down to the Broadway corridor. Hadn't been down there for a good while. It is worth a ride down there to take a look at what's happening, JT. I was astounded at the change. Just saying, just a good opportunity, if you're out for a drive and you want to drive, and to just get in and drive around some of those buildings now and see what all is there is really fascinating, so. Because we do talk a lot about the Broadway corridor.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Anything else? All right, I guess we're adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for being here.
No
Thanks for
problem.
joining
Thank you
us.
for your patience with my questions. It's hard to get like mentally on board and know what's all this stuff.
The whole concept. Yes.
I don't really understand it. Business financing very well, but it's
I didn't remember.
How's it going?
I know I could trust you.
We obligate ourselves